Hi, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. In today's video, we're looking at the best storm build at the moment in Wizard101. I did kind of already record this video like yesterday, but the issue is I forgot to include some key parts in the video, and I was like, it's better if I just re-record the video entirely so you guys can see instead of me just adding in like clips. I'd rather just redo the video entirely. So we're just going to be going over the max build right now with all the caps that are introduced and what gear that you can possibly run. There's a different variety of setups that you can actually run, and it just comes down to your different playstyles. So what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at my personal build, and then after that we're going to be looking at what the max damage is on a storm, and then of course some other possible builds that you can rock on a storm. So if you do enjoy this type of content, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. Join Discord if you guys haven't. I appreciate everyone that's been joining the Discord. You know, it does mean a lot to me, and we're close to getting to that 900 member mark. So if you guys haven't, definitely join the Discord or even stop by the Twitch channel. I made all these builds on stream, of course, so most of you guys already know what I've been up to when it comes to like the content that's going to be coming forward on the channel. So there is that. So let's get into the actual content. Now, if we go and check my gear setups, we're going to look at the main setup, which I am personally rocking at the moment, which is this build. So if we look at it, you might be wondering, well, I have a Pierce mount on. So we got the Reaver hood, which is pretty nice. We do like the introduction of item cards on gear. Just, I don't know how useful this particular spell is for me as a PvE player, so I'm not even going to touch it because Frenzy exists, and as well as Reinforce. So this aura does not mean too much to me, so there's that. And then the sockets, socket on whatever you like. It just comes down to personal preference. It doesn't affect your gameplay that much. I mean, the shield, I guess you can argue for extra resist, but whatever shield pin you want, doesn't really matter too much. The robe, you have nullity. Nullity is still staple to this date till we get a 170 variant of this, where like the template gets carried over. Nullity is still goated. Now if you don't have nullity, don't sweat about it. You can switch to Mire. If you don't want to use Mire, you can even use the Reaver robe. I think it's still on my other character. I forgot to move it over, but yeah, you can use the Reaver robe. That is an option as well. Just keep in mind is if you are low on pips, you might have to put a Sinbad mount on for the pips, but if your pips are fine, then don't worry about it. But yeah, nullity, Mire would be second best, and then Reaver would be third. And then boots, you got Reaver, of course. I love the trap on here. Very nice, the 35 trap. If we quickly look over at the spells, if we look at just a regular old storm trap, it's 30. So obviously if you sharpen this, it becomes 40. So you can have like multiple instances of this. For example, like certain fights, like a good example is I'm gonna upload the Pendragon video soon, and the Pendragon video does talk about the storm trap. So the storm trap from these Reaver boots are really good. They're really good, and they're really like godlike, right? So I recommend getting these Reaver boots 100%. Wand, Reaver boomerang. Of course, if you don't want to use this, you're more than welcome to use the Shabalba wand. The Shabalba 170 wand is literally the same thing. Instead of our pip conserve, it gives you shad rating. So if you care about shad rating, definitely switch this from Reaver and use Shabalba. Really good alternative, and I would highly recommend that as well. The Athame, we're using Reaver. We're doing double health sockets and double damage sockets with this setup. So there's that. The Amulet, we're using Reaver. If you don't want to use Reaver, you're more than welcome to use Hun Hao. Hun Hao is literally almost the same. It's just that two things are different, meaning you get more resist, you get more pip conserve. Also, the card is different. Instead of a Storm Blade, it gives you a Star Blade. Now, if you're doing solo stuff or whatever, I prefer the Storm Blade 100%. And I feel like I didn't clarify this in my my previous build videos, because a lot of people are saying just use Hun Hao, just use Hun Hao. But for 0 pip buff, I think this is just better because I believe it's a 35 blade. If we quickly check, yeah, it's a 35 blade. So for stackability purposes, you can do like this. You can do a Storm Blade, you can do a regular Storm Blade, you can do a sharpened Storm Blade. So you keep getting those 0 pip buffs, and then you can gain pips at the same time. So that's why for that specific reason, we're using Reaver. But you are more than welcome to use Hun Hao if you want the extra like 2 resist or something like that. But I just prefer Reaver by a lot. Ring, we have Reaver, of course, with double health sockets, and this time we have a pierce socket, which does correlate to the build, so keep that in mind. You want a pierce socket right here. Our pet, new meta, of course, double pierce with all damage and mighty. Now you do not have to have this on a Phyllosaur. I just have this on a Phyllosaur at the moment because there's a certain build I was trying to achieve, and that's why I'm just using this. And you don't even need the set bonus. I have a pierce mount on right now to have more pierce, so I get like, what is that, 8 pierce in total. But ideally I wouldn't rock this on a Phyllosaur. A Gulcher, the Storm Gulcher is good. You can rock this on any type of storm pet that gives you a blade. You can do it on like a trap pet. There's even the hamsters if you want to have another sharpened blade. That's a good option too. You got a lot of options. I'll be honest, you got a lot of options. You just got to pick which one you want, and you'll be set. So definitely that works out. And then yes, we are using a pierce mount. You can use Yopine Avenger, or you can use Clockwork Courser. Either one of those work. Even if you don't have anything here, you can literally put on any other stat mount. It just comes down to what your robe is. So for example, if I had like a different robe that gave me less power pips, I could switch this to like a Sinbad mount or something like that. I could switch this to a accuracy mount. There's really anything you can put right here. You don't even have to have a mount, to be fair. You can put on just a 55% mount, you know, if you want to. But with this build, the 2% pierce is just better. And then the deck, you can do Reaver. I do have Shabalba deck, but it's on my other character. I need to move it over. Ideally, I would be rocking Shabalba deck personally. I enjoy a little bit more because I think you sacrifice block for more health, and I prefer it personally. So my health would be like a little bit closer to 9.9, which is probably a tad bit. It wouldn't be exactly 9.9, but it gets pretty close, if I do say so myself. So there's that. So you can rock Shabalba. If you don't want to rock Shabalba, you can rock Reaver. If you don't want to rock either of those, I believe Wastelander gives decks. I could be wrong, but I remember Wastelander gear does have a decent deck. It's basically Skyfarer, but upgraded. So there's that. But honestly, I think Reaver, Shabalba, pick which one you want. And Shabalba would be better, personally. But yes, I have a pierce socket. And then if we look at our total stats, 239 damage, but its total is 249, but with the curve it makes it 239. Pretty decent health. I think I have all max jewels except my wand. Yeah, because I'm gonna switch this to Shabalba, so you can add like 10 extra HP if you want to for the socket. So I would be at like what, 2.85, right? Pretty close to 2.86. So there's that. Pierce, we got 50 Pierce, of course, godlike Pierce, decent crit, decent block, and then of course all the other stats are godlike. I wouldn't recommend putting Arc Mastery Jewels for PvE. I have to make the video about this, but do not put Arc Mastery Jewels on your tier sockets. I'm sorry. In a team scenario, you are going to mess up a lot of people, especially like in team up and stuff like that, because you guys are just gonna be competing for Arc Mastery, and you know, then the whole team doesn't get Arc Mastery. And you know, if you're trying to use like Bunyip or something like that in like team up or something like that, it ain't gonna work, because someone who has more Arc Mastery is just gonna take your school pip and it's over. Unless you guys know how to manipulate Arc Mastery pretty well, which would require you to be like in a team or just like a couple friends. In team up, it's just not it. So I don't recommend Arc Mastery Jewels as tier sockets. As if you see anyone say that, I just generally would not recommend it at all. I mean, most of the time I just do Scald Incendiate, which requires no school pips. But if you are playing on a storm and you do want to use Bunyip, because that would be like your turn one hit, you have to manipulate Arc Mastery pretty well to understand how to get a school pip easily round one. So there is that. And then of course with Teacup as well. I know some people use Teacup if it's just a single target boss. Same premise. You got to make sure you know how to manipulate Arc Mastery, because 850, and then if you enchant it, what is that, like 1150, which is really good for round one. I mean, if we're comparing it to Zilla, you know, Zilla's 760, this is 850. Or yeah, it's 760 versus 850. So, and I think that's maxed out, I'm pretty sure, if we quickly check. Yeah, this one's maxed out. So there's that. So this is my ideal build. I would recommend it, but like I said, switch the pet. Don't put this, keep the stats, but put it on a different pet body. Like I said, Gulcher, Storm Gulcher works, and there's other pets that can do the same exact thing. So this would be my ideal build. And then of course, let's look at the all damage build, just so you guys can understand the big difference. So with this build that I currently had on, keep in mind, I had 239 damage with 50 pierce. And I know players can be like, what if I just rock all damage? Well, this is what your gear setup would look like. You'd have 242, so you'd gain 3 damage right, from 239, right, because, you know, 242. But your Pierce tanks by 20%, which isn't that good, honestly. I don't mind losing 3 damage for 20 Pierce. I mean, there's an obvious answer. Of course, if there's a mob that you know that does not have any resist or anything like that, and you're like farming it, of course, then yeah, the damage build is completely fine. But if there's most of the mobs that you fight nowadays have a lot of resist, so it's just better to have the Pierce overall. So I just recommend that. Main differences between the build is that the hat, robe, boots, wand are the same. Like I said, switch this to Shabalba if you want to. The theme is still the same with all damage sockets. Amulet is damage sockets. Ring is damage socket. Pet is an all damage pet, but this time you have the set bonus. And then of course the deck is a damage socket as well. Of course, for example, just to preface, if we can look that we're at 242 damage. If I take off my mount, it shoots me down to 241. So if you want to, you can even put a 2% pierce mount. If you just care, you can rock 32 pierce with 241 damage if that's something that you like. But overall, I still think this other build is better. Now, there's some things that you could keep in mind. Like for example, you guys are probably wondering, well, Almond, you do have the Frillis Sword, why not just use the set bonus? Well, if you look at the set bonus, I'm at 239 right now. If I just put on the set bonus, my damage does not go up. It's still at 239. So that's why I'll be at 48 pierce, which is fine. You know, if I didn't have a pierce mount and instead I had the set bonus, I mean, sure, it doesn't do anything, right? It doesn't increase my stats or anything like that. But I mean, it's just better to rock a different mount. And it's better to switch up the pet. So that's why I use the pierce to get 50 pierce with 239, right? And I'm still there. The only time I would tank in damage, if for example, is if I switch my amulet to, for example, a pierce amulet. Now you can see I'm at 237. Now you're probably wondering, well, then put on the set bonus again. Well, if I put on the set bonus, I'm at 238, but I'm at 54 pierce. So it comes down to just personal preference, and I think 50 pierce is a staple for me. I don't think I need more than 50 pierce. I pierce the tower shield, right, which is what most mobs tend to do, just a tower shield, or just in some fights. Of course, if I need more pierce, of course this would just be a better setup, right? I can even manipulate it even more by just switching my damage sockets to pierce. So now I'm at 66 pierce, but my damage is 222. So it just comes down to the type of content I want to do. I can definitely switch out my damage sockets for more pierce and then use a set bonus to make up that damage. That's why personally I had it on the Frillis Sword, because most of the time I don't need an item card pet, due to the fact is like, hey, I already have a blade on my amulet and I get a trap for my boots. Like that is enough for me, and most of the time it's feint stack. And even if it isn't feint stack, literally we can just use storm traps and I have a stackable trap and I have a different blade. Of course, on my deck I get a star blade. Like I got enough buffs from there, so that's why I'm not really caring too much about a pet that gives me a certain stat, like a certain card, I mean, because like there's definitely, you can use like a snappy gulcher if you want the blade and the feint. You could definitely use a gobbler ball if you want to use the Ellie blade and the dragon blade. There's a couple of different pets you can rock. It just comes down to what exactly, like right here, there's the gulcher right here that I was talking about, that gives a blade and a windstorm. You can put it on there. It's a variety. It's generally a variety of different pets, and it really comes down to what you want to do. It genuinely does. And I know what some people might do also is, for example, if you're in a storm, some people might just put reinforce on their pet, because you can rock that reinforce, so you can just lose your resist instead of taking damage. I've seen some people, what they do is they take off the 2% pierce and put reinforce, and then on their mount they're rocking the pierce mount, like how I was doing. So instead of them being at like 50 pierce, they'll be at 48, but they do get the reinforced item card, which is interesting to see. So there's a lot of variety from what I'm seeing around the community, but this is honestly, like I said, the first build that I showed you is my opinion is like the overall best build. It just comes down to like the little things that people can change. Like I said, taking off pierce on your pet, taking off that 2% pierce and putting on reinforce, putting this on a completely different pet, like I said, like a gulcher or something like that, because you don't need the set bonus. Some people have this deck on instead of or Shabalba. Some people have nullity. If they don't have nullity, they rock Mire or Reaver. With the wand, you can rock this or Shabalba. It just genuinely comes down to personal preference, but you're mainly going to be hitting around the same type of caps, right? You might be a little bit more damage, you might be a little bit less damage, you might have more pierce, you might have a little bit less pierce. You might favor something else than someone else might. So that's basically what end game Storm has looked like at the moment for me. But overall, I think 239 with 50 pierce is what I'm going to be doing. I might remake this pet down the line and put it on a different pet body if I really care, but I think at the moment I'm kind of just set because I don't use the item card on here, and even if I had it on a pet that gave me an item card, I don't know how often I would be using it personally. So there is that. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the little build video and giving you guys a little bit of different options. Definitely, hopefully you stayed all the way through the end and got like a better understanding of all the types of builds. But overall, 239 with 50 pierce on a Storm, I think that's solid. I really think that's solid. If you want to go down to, what is it, 238, like I was showing you guys earlier, you guys can definitely switch like your amulet and put on pierce, and that will take you to, and if you had the set bonus, of course. So let's put on the set bonus. That puts you at 54 pierce with 1 less damage. So you would have 4 more pierce with 1 less damage, which, hey, if that's something you like, go for it, right? But hopefully this gave you a better understanding. I still think 239 with 50 pierce is a solid staple for Storm moving forward till we get new gear or till we get the caps get adjusted or something like that. And I'll probably talk about a video separately down the line about the caps, in my opinion about it. I know players have a lot of their own opinions, but I definitely will make a video talking about that. So at the moment, this is the best Storm build. I will definitely be uploading all the other builds later this week, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all type of stuff. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions down below. Do you guys like these stats? Is there gonna be something you're going to be changing? You know, there's a lot of different variety, so keep that in mind. But that is it, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.